welcome back to my channel. Hello, and welcome back to How to Be Happy January. Now, today is going to be a chatty, blabbery video all around I say kind of because I tend to go off on 32 different tangents, but around the topic of jealousy. Now, I want to open this video kind of before I go down this path, and I have to be honest about a couple of things. First one, I really enjoy doing these chatty, there's Bowser there. I really enjoy doing these chatty kinds of videos. I like to talk. I think because I'm so into learning, I spend a lot of time just consuming content and reading and just in all forms, podcasts and videos and websites and books and all these things. So I am like eating a lot, but I like being able to sit down and then like regurgitate it, or I don't even know, like just share it. I feel like that was a nasty, regurgitate's the word, right? We'll roll with that. So I like doing it, but and I feel like a lot of you guys like watching them, but I will say when I watch myself back, just talking, like it's hard to not be mean to myself and feel like I am so annoying, like I'm acting like such a know-it-all. And that's honestly, over all of these years with How to Be Happy January, one of my biggest paranoias, if that's the word, with doing this series, with announcing the title, when people don't know what it is, I'm like, oh, I know the Courtney's title, I'm not claiming, like I know everything about happiness. Like I get paranoid, and then I'll watch myself in these videos and I'm like, I'll have this like mean, critical voice in my head that's like, who do you think you are? Listen to how annoying you sound. Like, ugh, the tone of your voice. You're such an obnoxious, like, know-it-all older sister. So I don't even know why I felt compelled to share that with you. Maybe that's for someone out there who's also really critical of themselves. Maybe you're looking at me and maybe you've never thought that about me. Like, oh, you seem like an annoying know-it-all sister. And you're like, what? She's paranoid about that? Like, I think it's interesting to see people's perceptions of themselves, but also, if maybe you've thought that, I've thought it too. But I enjoy sharing. So today, like I said, I'm going to talk about jealousy. And my opinion of jealousy has shifted a lot, I'd say, in the last year and a half particularly. I've had a full-on journey though with jealousy over the last like 5 years of my life. It's really been very interesting to watch and observe my own feelings and just how I react to people. And I guess to kind of like, to be more specific about that, backing up, I would say prior to about 5 years ago maybe, I genuinely was not someone who struggled a whole ton with jealousy, or at least I wasn't aware of it. But I don't feel like I struggled with it a whole ton. I feel like I was in a place in my head where it was kind of easy for me to talk myself into like, you know, that's their blessing, that's so exciting, and I was really good. I mean, I don't want to slam myself. I'm still good at being excited for other people, but we'll circle back to that. But I was just really good at being excited for other people and feeling a knowing of like, whatever is supposed to happen for me, like that's what's going to happen for me, and this is what is for them. But somewhere in the ballpark of the last 5 years, I started struggling the most with jealousy that I ever had in my life. And I know that one of the catalysts, if that's the word for that, is YouTube, or was YouTube. Social media, numbers, visible platforms. There's a lot to that. You also have to remember, when I started YouTube, on a side note, most people thought I was like crazy and wondered when I was going to get a real job. So early YouTube for me was very different than like 3-4 years in, when, you know, other people started to understand, when society started to understand social media a little bit more, and YouTube and videos, and just being able to connect with people on the internet. So it changed a lot, and all of a sudden there were a lot of eyes on me, and all of a sudden my YouTube thing, my little, not hobby, because if you know my story, I didn't go into YouTube as a hobby. I went in with the goal of like, hey, this would be a dope job, I want to do this. But all of a sudden my thing became like, I don't know, like the real world. It went from something I did in private and I had my internet friends to something where all of a sudden business people were involved and brands and agencies and, you know, lots of people were making a living at it. And because of that, and I don't even want to say because I actually think it ultimately goes down to my heart. It's just, I came to this point in my life and I didn't cope with it well, or it brought up these emotions, I guess. Having all of those eyes on me, having all of those opinions changed things. Also, if you know my story, that is the same reason why early YouTube, I didn't tell anyone when I started. Like, I kept it super secret because I apparently, especially back then, maybe not so much now, but still some ways now, I was very susceptible to being discouraged by people's criticism or input in real life. So I didn't want anyone to know, because I didn't want anyone questioning the kind of videos I was making, or you know, why are you doing this, or have you tried doing that, or whatever. I felt like I was going to get comments and then I would just be so overwhelmed because I was so sensitive, and I'm still very sensitive in a lot of ways. That's another side note. But I was like, I can't tell anyone. So having this happen, you know, 3 years into my career, triggered, I feel like I'm putting quotes and like voices around everything, but triggered, I think, this kind of emotional response in me. And I feel like I've spent the last 5 years kind of navigating that and trying to figure out how to get back to my old self, the personality, the part of me that was able to celebrate other people and know that their blessings don't take away from my blessings, and knowing that their blessings and their path is unique for them and mine can and will look different. Now, that being said, it's been a crazy journey, but over the last year and a half, a few months before I felt like God spoke to me about us moving to Nashville, well, really about us going to Nashville, I had a few things go down. So I started reading an author I've mentioned to you guys before, Shauna Nyquist, I'm not sure how to say her name. She is the daughter of I think the lead pastor of Willow Creek Church in Chicago. And I remember, Jessica Hover here on YouTube. I met her through Carly Christman, also from YouTube. We had met up right at the point where I look back and consider, like, I don't know, like, you ever know when you look back in life and you feel like there are just points where all of a sudden it was like a new chapter? Jess introduced me to this author and this book, to Shauna Nyquist and the book Present Over Perfect, right at the period where I feel like my chapter changed. It was all kind of around that same time. And so I read the book Present Over Perfect, which, by the way, I highly recommend. A bunch of you guys commented to me, like, because I said Shauna Nyquist, apparently she's my favorite author. I had never really realized that, and then I started looking at my Audible library and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I have like every single one of her books, and I've listened to them all multiple times. And a bunch of you guys were like, did you know that Shauna is a 7 on the enneagram? Which, if you don't know what the enneagram is, I will link that down below. I did a video on it. It's like they call it a model of the human psyche. Some people call it a personality test, but I like that description better, a model of the human psyche. Anyways, people were like, she's a 7, that's probably why you relate to her so much. 100%. I actually knew that. And when I found that out a while ago, I was like, that's why. I just got chills thinking about it. I was like, her writing speaks to me so deeply. I think it's just vastly relatable to everyone. But yeah, we're both 7s. So right around that time I was reading her book, my brain started thinking about jealousy. I don't remember what triggered this, but I had this thought that I felt like was a totally different perspective. I kind of like picked up my jealousy and I examined it all around. This actually might have been from Shauna. This might be in one of her books, because I know it was all at the same time period. It was, ding, 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 I just flipped back to this specific chapter. She talked about this, about asking yourself, why? Why do I feel jealous? Because I think people can feel jealousy for different reasons, different maybe root causes. And one thing that she brought up was the thought of, hey, maybe I'm jealous because I need to make a change in my life to go that direction. So as opposed to blowing that off, like, ew, like, that's stupid. Like, some people kind of default to that, like, who would want that? Like, they'll kind of make fun of it or be rude. Some people will kind of like tamper it down, like, hey, that's their life, not mine. You know, and we all just kind of try to cope with it. But she brought up the prospect or the idea of like, what if I'm jealous because that's really something that I want and something that I could change in my life to do. I could steer my ship, you know? Is that something I want? And it's a slippery slope because I think there's also this, like I said, hand-in-hand thing of like, you know, not everything is meant for everyone and you can't control everything. I've mentioned this month already. I don't subscribe to the fact that you can just control everything with your thoughts. I am a very weird side note though. I hold two thoughts. I do not believe that you can just control everything with your thoughts because I believe that God is in control, but I also believe in free will, and I also really do believe in the power of your thoughts, of manifestation, of being able to make things happen. It's this weird like hybrid that I feel, and I feel that way about so many things in life where I hold kind of two thoughts at once. And yeah, I don't know, it's kind of weird, but that's the gist. But yeah, with jealousy, I think it's this thing that like, it's worth examining why. And for me, there were specific people that I was jealous of. Quite a few, a lot of people, but there were specific people that I was jealous of that I had been like kind of pushing down in my head for a while. And some of them, by the way, were drastically different kinds of people, and I was jealous over drastically different kinds of things. So I was able to look and be like, okay, why am I jealous of this? And I was able to be like, okay, with this specific thing, I think it's just greed. I think it's just me wishing I was the best. I was getting the most views. I was getting the most money. I was getting the most this. And it was really just, I think, selfishness and greed and comparison and not acknowledging my own huge blessings. But then there were other areas where I was jealous, where when I stepped back and looked at it, I was like, yo, I think I'm jealous because this person chose this kind of life and I didn't, and I kind of wish I did, or I think I kind of want to go that direction. And it kind of was something that was in my control, that I could choose to like change the direction of the ship, move the sails. And once I had that realization of like where different jealousy was coming from, I was able to be like, okay, so if you're jealous of this because you actually want this, and in theory you could make this happen, what's stopping you and what needs to change? And that was not an overnight thing. Some people would probably say it was, because even like the move to Nashville, like I know that was just very fast for a lot of people. Like, whoa, my brain is this weird hybrid of like, I've mentioned this, I stew on a lot of things at once. So sometimes, on a side note, people will think I'm like keeping things from them, and that's like not really what's going on. I just have so many burners like with pots on them going at the same time for a long time. And then I just kind of, once it's right, it's right. Anyways, that was yet another side tangent. So once I realized that, I was able to be like, what can I change? What's stopping them, or stopping me from making that change? What's stopping me potentially from having that happen, or at least going that direction? And then I was able to sit, think about it, pray about it, talk to Dan about it, continue to read. And just like I mentioned in the very first How to Be Happy January, I was then able to make small decisions to move that direction, because that's the direction I felt like I wanted to go. I felt like I was being called to go towards. I felt like I needed to go for my sanity. And I was able to make those small choices every day, because really the small choices are oftentimes what build up to big changes. I don't know, I think that's just the most interesting revelation I've had about jealousy in recent history. And it really has been like having that mental shift of like, examine why you're jealous. Don't just brush over it. And we've talked about this before with emotions and feelings, how there's this weird thing I feel like in society and in life, and it, for me personally, beliefs that I hold even, that on one hand, I feel like emotions are fleeting and they can't be trusted, and they go up and they go down and it's just emotions. But then on the other hand, I don't fully subscribe to that, because I think sometimes emotions are trying to tell you something and they're worth paying attention to and they're worth examining, but not worth necessarily always making like a rash judgment decision based off of an emotion. But when you just shut down your emotions, oh, I don't need to pay attention to those, I don't need to acknowledge those, I think you are losing a potentially helpful compass. So versus just like, I'm not paying attention, I'm not, kind of not being so afraid to examine certain emotions, or just your emotions in general, I think can be really helpful in having a fulfilling life that also has joy in it. We talked about this also. I always say we, really I'm just blabbering you. You guys did leave comments though, and on a side note, not a side note, I hate that I say that all the time, I love your guys' comments. I know I say that all the time. I just feel like I have to keep saying it. But yeah, we talked about this, the fact that emotions come in sets of 3, as my therapist would say. So I just think a good thing to keep in mind this whole month is that while the title is How to Be Happy January, I think part of the happiness aspect of life is accepting the obvious fact that you will not be happy all the time, that life and emotions are layered, that there's a lot to it, and that you are not in control. It's that the you are not in control thing, I always kind of like, I stumble on that a little bit, because like I've said now 12 times, I hold both beliefs. I think that a kind of good analogy, although it's super simple, is like if you're in a boat and there's a hole in the boat and the boat is sinking, I don't personally think that the best thing to do is to say, Lord, help this boat not to sink, or, well, I don't have any control in not sinking this boat. I think that you would still look at the obvious and be like, okay, there's a hole here, let's patch this hole up. But also, you don't fully control the situation. Like the boat could still, you could patch it up and then a crack goes through and it breaks, or a shark could come up and eat you out of the boat. Like there are so many other things, but if you're able to, in your heart and your head and physically and all of that, I think it's good to take steps towards a life that you want. And if you don't know what you want, you're not sure, I think that is once again where examining emotions can be helpful. We're looking at jealousy, looking at those feelings and being like, okay, why is that happening? And just spending time thinking and investigating and praying and learning, and making sure that you're involved in or finding a community of people that you can trust to bounce things off of. That being said, this is now yet another side note, I still believe in, boundaries with community. You can't expect anyone to be your everything. That's just not possible in life. But people, other relationships, and their perspectives bring so much to life, obviously, and your thought process, and can really help you see things from a different perspective. So I just think that, yeah, there's a lot to this, but really the moral of today's video was the jealousy factor. I want to encourage you to look at your life and ask yourself, okay, is there anywhere that I've been struggling with jealousy if it's not already blatantly obvious? And then pick it up, just like I said, like a little ball, and examine it. Look all around it. See what that is, and try to find if you can answer that question for yourself of why. Why do I feel this way? Is this emotion trying to tell me something? And give it up in prayer too. Man, I say this all the time, but when I give my burdens in prayer, I actually talk to the Lord about it, give them up. It helps me so much in my day-to-day. So yeah, I just want to encourage you in all of those areas. And that is pretty much it for today's How to Be Happy January video. I will see you guys back here soon. I am enjoying this month. I feel like on a roll, and yeah. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And feel free to share it if you want to, because liking my videos, sharing them, commenting, all of that is a way for you to show support to my channel and my content, and I appreciate it more than you know. So that's it, guys. I will see you back here soon. Oh, don't forget, I'm uploading Monday, Wednesday, Friday for How to Be Happy January, and then I'll probably upload a couple other bonus videos as well in the mix if I can do that. So, all right, guys. Bye.